Okay, welcome to another episode of Beyond Sport, the podcast that talks about sport, careers, mental health, and everything in between. You have myself as a host, Craig, with fellow tutors Mark and Nathan, and guest student host Ellie. And it gives me a great pleasure to welcome our special guest this week, Brittany Wagner.
Hi.
Now, some of you may recognise Brittany, some of you may not. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background between kind of what she's done and what she's going to do in the future and stuff. So Brittany kind of is a nationally respected athletic academic counsellor and a motivational speaker, best known for a role in the Netflix hit show Last Chance U. Now, if you didn't see that, you must have been sleeping under a rock for the last God knows how long, because it was an amazing show about American football and college and people trying to have second chances. Brittany was very kind of famous in terms of being able to manage and kind of work with these young people that are coming from different backgrounds and getting them to some academic success, as well as also on the field, progressing further up in the education system and then hopefully into the NFL as well. So that kind of leads into my first question then, Brittany, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So you kind of hit the main news with the Last Chance U stuff, working at the EMCC, East Mississippi Community College. At the time when you did you feel like it was going to take off as well as it did?
No, and no. I thought the opposite, honestly. At the time, I didn't have Netflix. I was a single mom and I'm struggling financially, and it just wasn't in the budget. And I didn't have Netflix. I really didn't understand what it was, and like, why would people watch this? Like, why do people not? Who's gonna click on this and watch this show? I just really thought no one would care. About us. Like, we're in Mississippi, nobody cares. Who's going to care about any of this? Like, this is not going to be something that anybody really cares about. And then I thought, well, but if people do just stumble upon it, somehow, they'll fast forward through my stuff. Like, they're going to be watching it because they want to see the football. They want to see the games and the locker room scenes and the practices. And so I just kind of thought, I'll be the part of the show where everybody, goes to the restroom or like goes and gets a Coke, or they just simply fast forward, because who's going to want to watch this woman, managing the academics of these guys? Like, that's just not going to be interesting or fun for anybody. And so in a way, I think that my perception was really valuable, because it allowed me, there was no pressure for me. I mean, I just thought, like, I'm just going to be myself, and nobody's going to watch this anyway, so who cares? And I think that was the beauty of, I think we all kind of had that attitude a little bit. And I honestly think that was the beauty of the show and what made it so great, especially season 1, was because we had no idea what we were doing. And none of us thought anybody was going to watch it. And so we were just all being ourselves. And I mean, people loved it. So yeah.
And I think a lot of the stuff the football was great. The story of the football side was brilliant, and you could feel the momentum building and that kind of stuff. But I think the real stories behind the student athletes and kind of your struggle to try and motivate them and get them to class in order to get to Division 1, Division 2 kind of schools, that made it for me. I think so.
That's what I found, though. I got, when everybody that reaches out, or I started finding, the longer the show has been on the air, that's really what everyone was drawn to, was the human interest stories, the humanity of it all. And honestly, that gave me great hope, because I think at the point when the show was coming out, I was kind of in this negative place of like, man, this world is not good. Like, people are just not good. And then to have the show come out and to have so many people all over the world be drawn to the human interest stories and the humanity of the show really gave me hope for us, like, as human beings, to know that, like, there are really great people out there that want to connect, to these types of stories.
That's fantastic. I think as teachers who work like in a sporting environment, like we understand the importance of academics, and as well as like the mental and physical benefits of sport, and to see you take like such pride and interest like solely really in the academics and trying to push them and hammer home that importance. It's something we try to do on a daily basis. So from a personal point of view, watching it was quite inspiring, in fact really inspiring. And sort of brings me into my next question, as you was found to say, like, do you have a pencil, as a phrase? And it's something we say a lot as teachers before starting our lessons. Is there any other phrases that you sort of find yourself saying, like, in terms of, and is there like sort of a meaning behind it to the students? Because obviously something as simple as "do you have a pencil" says a lot about someone's organisation, readiness, preparedness.
Yeah, you know, to tag on to the "do you have a pencil" thing, I think, yes, you know, it does say a lot about organization and preparedness and like putting forth effort. You know, now I talk a lot about putting forth effort. Just showing up is half the battle. You know, half the battle is just showing up, whether it's class or life or relationships or whatever it is, to be physically present and mentally present in that moment is so important. But also, I think for me, the pencil now, at the time, I was just really wanting to know, like, do you have a freaking pencil? But like now, you know, I really look at it too as resources, because the reality was a lot of those guys, they didn't have a pencil. Not only did they not have a pencil walking into class, but like they did not come to college with a pencil. They came to college with 2 pairs of clothes and a toothbrush, because that's all they own. That's all they have. I mean, they're poverty, you know, they were poverty stricken or just didn't have the resources that the rest of us have. And so I think it kind of became symbolic for me in that, look, an opportunity is not an opportunity if we're not willing to provide the resources necessary for it to be successful. And I can't expect my guys to walk in a classroom and pass it if they don't have the basic resource of having a pencil. And so if I have the ability to hand them that basic resource, why not do it? And that really, you know, rather than beat them up for not having a pencil, I can just hand them one and we can be done with this and move on. And that really was kind of my attitude and reason I started handing them out in the first place. But I think it has become symbolic of effort, resources, you know, preparedness, just showing up. So yeah. The other thing that I find myself saying, get off your phone a lot, like these days, like put your phone down, get off your phone. What are you doing? Why are you on your phone? You know, it's like a broken record. But I think that too parlays into focus, you know, like just repeat. I just found myself saying, and still do, like, focus. And I guess that to me is meaning be right here. Like, be present in this moment with what you're doing. If you're writing a paper, then write the paper. Like, put the phone down, turn everything, like, sit and engage and try. And will it be perfect? Will it be an A? I don't know. Who cares? Try. And, you know, I just found myself constantly trying to, and you can see it in the show, especially in season 2, way more in season 2, I think, than in season 1. But you can see me really saying, focus, 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 sit, stop, you know, because especially this generation of young people, they're all over the place because they're used to instant gratification and the phone, and, like, you know, their attention span is 5 seconds, and I just stop, you know, be where your feet are, be in this moment. All of that is still going to be there in 10 minutes. Instagram is still going to be there in 10 minutes. Put it down. I find myself constantly repeating that to this generation.
It's fantastic.
It kind of leads into my question. You know, you did a similar role, you know, for over 15 years before Netflix. And, you know, you work with different, you know, student athletes, work with different coaches. You know, how did you deal with working with so many challenging personalities, and, you know, how have you seen it evolve over that period of time?
Yeah, that's tough. I mean, that's what we, you know, I feel like that, especially today in this world, like that's kind of what we're dealing with, is figuring out how to deal with people that don't look like you, don't act like you, don't believe what you believe. And that's really the key to life, is mastering that, I think. You know, I had to work on that. That did not come naturally to me, honestly. And like, as a younger counselor, I probably wasn't that great at that. Like I had a system and I wanted everybody to kind of fit in my system. And I had to learn that in order to be the best counselor I could be for everybody, it wasn't about them fitting into my system. It was about me fitting into theirs. And so I had to learn how to adapt and how to, I mean, on the fly, you know, I couldn't have the same game plan for Ronald Ollie that I could have for John Franklin. They were two totally different people. And I mean, it's the same in sports, you know, one wide receiver is taller and can jump and catch the ball. The other receiver is shorter and you're going to have to throw it right at his chest or he's not going to catch it. I mean, we're that way with our personalities as well. And so there were a lot of deep breaths. I mean, I had to stop myself a lot. And I think if you watch the show very carefully, you can see me physically, like 3 deep breaths. I always had a stress ball in my hand. I mean, I was very conscious about, stop. Like, who are you talking to, Brittany? How does this person, what does this person respond to? I mean, I had to really work on stopping myself from the reaction that I wanted to have, and breathing, and then thinking about how I needed to respond in that moment. And that is not an easy thing. And I mean, it took me years of trial and error and getting it wrong before I got it right. And just thank goodness, by the time they filmed the show, I had gotten it right.
And that was reflective. You could see the same student on Monday was buzzing, and then on a Tuesday they could be completely flat. And you were always the same. You know, you always had that same, you give the same amount of time and effort and love that every student, no matter what their sort of mindset was on that particular day. So yeah, that was pretty cool.
Thank you. Well, I mean, the reality of it is, though, like, I come in on a Monday and I'm in a good mood, and by Wednesday I'm mad. You know, I mean, we're all like, we're human beings. And so I think, you know, they saw me for who I was and that I was a human being, and I allowed them to see my struggles too. And so if I'm going to want them to offer me grace, I got to offer it to them. Like, I can't expect something from them that I'm not willing to give. And so that was kind of my attitude.
Yeah. I think that jumps into your question, Ellie, doesn't it? Something on those lines.
Yeah, it kind of leads into mine as such, like, because you always have to build a relationship with your tutors and like using your resources, like we've touched on this podcast. But from like my point of view as a student, and I have the support of Craig, Mark and Nathan and the other tutors in the college, from your point of view, Brittany, and like your experience, when you see a student struggling with the pressures of playing and studying, like what kind of advice would you say? And like, when from watching parts of the show myself, like how genuine and the integrity you have with your students as well, like how would you give them advice on the struggles and pressures?
Yeah, I think it's really important, because the struggle is real. I mean, you can't take away the struggle. I can't wave a magic wand. I can't make it any easier. And the reality, though, is life is hard, with or without sports. You know, like life is not sunshine and rainbows. And no matter what you choose to do with your life, you're going to go through periods of life that are not fun. I mean, it's just fact. And so I think it's really important to understand that you're not alone. You know, I think I had a lot of athletes that would sit in a class or sit in a situation and drown because they were so afraid to tell anyone what they were going through, thinking that they were the only one going through it, that no one has ever, you know, I'm failing this class because I'm stupid and I shouldn't be in college, when the reality is so many people have failed this class before you and will fail it after you. And, you know, I never wanted an athlete to just sit helplessly and struggle. That would just break me inside to think of someone just sitting and struggling when we can help. There's help, you know, we can help you. And so I always tried to say, look, no matter what it is you're dealing with, you're not alone. Ask for help. It doesn't make you dumb. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you anything but a human being, you know, because we all have strengths and weaknesses. And so I always tried to really kind of nail that home, that look, come in here and ask for help. It's okay to not be great at everything. And I think a lot of times athletes, especially really good ones, are used to being great. Like they are, you know, these guys were the top 10% in their sport. So to admit that maybe they weren't great in another area was really hard for their ego. It was really hard for them. And so I always tried to talk to them about, you know, how, look, we're not going to be great at everything. And that's okay. Like there's nothing, you know, wrong with that. But look, when you're not great at something, accept it and then ask for help and work on it. You know, you're not, it's a process. And so that was always my key. The other key, I think, to managing that pressure and stress is creating small successes. So because it allows you to relax. When you can have success at something, you go, huh. And then there's your whole thought process changes, because your thought process before the success is, I can't do this. I'm not good enough. It's all the negative self-talk that we have in our brain. And then the minute the success happens, no matter how small it is, your whole mindset changes. Your mindset then becomes, oh, well, maybe I can do this. Maybe I am good enough. Maybe I do belong. And when your mindset changes, there's no limit to where you can go. And so I recognize that, okay, I gotta change the mindset. And in order to change the mindset, they've got to have some success here. So sometimes, honestly, I would manufacture success. I mean, because I needed the moment. So I would, you know, you saw that moment in season 1 where I'm helping D.J.Law write the paper, and I lean over to him and I say, you're really good at this. Yours is better than everyone else's. I was trying to create that small success with him, to believe that, hey, I can do this. I can write this paper. I can do college. And so I would manufacture success sometimes in order to just get them to breathe. You know, breathe and believe in themselves, because to me, believing that you can do something is really important to actually doing it. Yeah.
That's class, that, Brittany. And it kind of leads into, you've kind of a little bit answered it already, but I want to kind of just explore it a little bit more. So you've got them students coming in fresh every kind of, you know, semester, starting new with high expectations. They all want to make the NFL. You know, over here, it's they all want to play Premier League football. You know, how do you kind of manage that expectation? Because not all of them are going to make the NFL. Some of them may do it, yeah, but it's only going to be a small percentage. So how do you kind of manage that on and preparing them for life after kind of football, if you know what I mean?
You know, that's tough, because I don't want to be a dream killer for anybody. I mean, I think dreaming and wanting is key, especially for guys that have come from nothing. You know, if you've come from homelessness or nothing, or a really rough background, your dream is super important. And so I don't want to be the one laughing at your dream and saying like, oh, you're never going to be able to accomplish that. That's not my place. So I was always very, you know, I struggled with it. I was always very aware, like how do I juggle being honest and realistic with not killing a dream? And that's tough. Sometimes there were moments where I did have to be honest. I mean, there's moments where I just would have to say, like, look, I know you want to play high level football. The reality is you're 5'10", and it didn't happen. I mean, probably not happening. And so I think it depends on you have to know the athlete. I think it depends on the athlete. It depends on their mindset. It depends on their work ethic. Like there's other factors. It's not a one size fits all plan. I think you have to really be aware of who you're talking to and what the words that you're saying are going to do to their psyche. And if it's going to do more harm than good, then you don't say it. Then you go along with the dream, and you play the game and let the cards fall. And sometimes I had to do that. So, it's a very fine line. I had a athlete one time that I had a sign in my office where I had the numbers. I thought, okay, I'm going to get the statistics out and post the numbers. Maybe that'll click with them. And so I had the number of athletes that play like high school football, and then it broke it down, the percentage that make it to play high level college, and then it goes down to the NFL. And the reality is only 1% of football players make it to the NFL. And that's, absurd when you think about how many are wanting to go. And so I had that chart on my wall, and I had an athlete one time, that a defensive lineman that just would not go to class and was not really putting forth effort in anything except football. And I called him in my office and I said, okay, I want you to read that chart out loud to me. Tell me what that chart says. And so he's reading the numbers, and he's like, only 1% of, college football players make it to the NFL. And I was like, okay, yes. Now, what does that tell you? And he said that I got to be the 1%. And I'm like, no, that's not what it's supposed to tell you. But that's the mentality, and that's the reality. And I can't fault them for that, because at the same time, though, that's what makes them great. So I think for me, I started realizing, though, that you can be a really great athlete and strive to be in that 1%. You can still be more than an athlete. You look at some of the great athletes out there, they're still more than an athlete. Tom Brady is a fantastic athlete. He's also a father and a husband and a health nut, and he has a college degree, and you can be more than an athlete. And so I kind of took that road after a while of saying, like, yes, the dream is great. However, have another one. Like, there's no limit on how many dreams you can have. So let's have this dream of being a great athlete. Let's also have another dream that doesn't involve a ball, that involves something else, like your brain, your heart, something else. Because even if you are a great athlete and you are in that 1%, start a foundation, where you help, whatever that passion is, you can still do that on the side. So I really started trying to instill that in them as well, to try to get it to click that there needs to be a plan B. Always. Look, I have a plan B. You always got to have a plan B. Because look, who would have ever thought in 2020 we would be dealing with a worldwide pandemic? No one. Thank goodness we all had a plan B.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That sort of sets us up nicely for talking about your blog on your website. And in your blog, you talk about the lessons that have come out of the coronavirus, and how athletes might be focusing on the negatives, and I suppose that could be applied to the wider population. How important would you say a positive mindset is, not only towards this pandemic that we're currently in, but across all walks of life, really?
To me, that's it. That's the key.
Right.
When you what you think, you start to believe, whether it's fact or not. And then when you start to believe something, you become it. But it all starts with that thought. And when you allow negative thoughts about yourself or other people to grow, you will believe, that it's fact. And no matter how absurd it is, and then you will act based on that thought. We act based on if I think my house is on fire, I am running out of it. I don't need proof. Like if I think I am running, if I wait until I'm hot, I'm going to die. And so that's how important our thoughts are. I mean, so during this pandemic, I mean, goodness, for me, controlling what do I allow in my brain. And I've had to be very conscious of, what am I reading? What am I listening to? When I scroll, I'm very aware of who I follow on Instagram and if something is affecting me negatively or making me feel badly about myself, block and delete. Like I have control over what I allow in my own space. And I think sometimes, we get so caught up in comparison mode and in what everyone else is thinking about us that we're forgetting about what we think about ourselves. And so, yeah, what you allow in and making sure that your thoughts are positive. I used to wear a rubber band, and whenever I would get on a negative spiral in my brain, I would literally pop myself and inflict pain on myself to wake me up. Like, no, stop. Why are you change your thoughts, because I just know how important what I'm thinking in my head is to how I live my life.
Right.
Yeah, that sort of leads into the, you're normally you'd be traveling all over America, you'd be connecting with so many people, you'd be passing on advice just like you've given there now, and you'd be motivating people all the time. What's this period been like for you, both personally and day to day as of 2021, where, you can't do the same things and the same travel you normally would do?
Yeah. I mean, it's not easy, and it's been hard and difficult, I think, for all of us. Again, though, I've really made sure that I focus on the silver lining and what it has allowed me to do that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Had we not gone to this, I mean, here's a perfect example. Would I have ever done this podcast or met you guys and been able to speak to people in a totally different country had COVID not hit? Probably not. And I think it's been hard because I was used to traveling and used to being face to face with my audience and really being able to meet people and hug them and motivate them in that way. However, because we had to go to this format of virtual, I've been able to reach a group of people that I never would have been able to travel to see. I met with 300 athletes in Los Angeles over a Zoom call that I never would have been able to go and meet if we had still been in a normal situation, because I wouldn't have flown to Los Angeles. I wouldn't have been able to fly to Los Angeles to do it. I did a show last week that's coming out next week in Ireland. Never would have happened. So I have constantly had to remind myself, like, look, this is fantastic. This has allowed us an entirely new platform to connect with people, and it's great. And I've really just tried to focus on that. I also have a 12-year-old daughter who I know that the time is coming very soon that she will not want to spend time with her mother anymore. And so I have loved being at home with her. And I have loved, I've gotten all the board games out, and let's play a game, and let's put a puzzle together, and let's find a show we can watch. And I've gotten to spend an entire year getting to know my child in a way that I never would have gotten to know her had this not happened. And I'm really grateful for that, because I know the time is coming very soon where she's going to expand her wings and fly away. And so, I'm grateful. I'm grateful for, as badly as this has been, I am grateful for what the opportunity and new things that it's brought to my life.
Yeah, it's class. I suppose it's, instead of having to go and travel all that distance and all those flights and hotels, you can do it from your kitchen. And
honestly, we'll keep it this way. I mean, my business manager and I are like, okay, wait a minute. I'm like, let's keep doing this. I kind of like this. So, we've changed the business model to now incorporate a lot of virtual stuff and Zoom stuff, and lowered the price for people that want to do it virtually. And it's really opened up an entirely new window, which has been fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, 100%. So, like we've touched on this a bit already about like the global pandemic and how it's affecting people, but what do you do yourself, Brittany? What, like, you're keeping yourself mentally fit? Like, it's very important for everyone to keep mentally fit in times like this. It's just one of them times where we have to stay together, be the best, and having like yourself like keep out all the negativity as such.
Yeah, well, I have limited my intake of news. I don't watch the news, a little bit more now, but before, that's all I'll say. But before, I just couldn't. I mean, it would make anybody crazy if you sat there and watched that all. So I'm very limited in what news I let in. For me, moving my body, working out, and staying physically fit is very tightly with my mental fitness. I mean, I'm not going to be in the best shape mentally if I'm not working out. It's just fact. And so
100%.
yeah, so I made sure even when the gyms shut down and I couldn't go and do my normal routine, I did virtual workouts on my back porch every day. I ran in the neighborhood. I mean, I just made sure that I was continuing to work out and move my body in some way. You know, for me, I kind of made a list of like, what projects do I want to accomplish here at my house? Like, because it's very important for me to feel like I'm productive and like that I have a purpose. And so I was aware that if I sit here and do nothing all day, I'm gonna start feeling gross because I'm not gonna be checking things off my to-do list. And so I would start making a to-do list of like, I'm gonna clean out this closet and I'm gonna, you know, pull weeds in the flower bed. And I mean, I just made a list of things that I could still do that would make me feel like I had accomplished something every day, so that I wouldn't get in this rut of just waking up, sitting, going to bed. And that really helped push me through, honestly. To-do list, working out, and not watching the news. That's it.
So, Brittany, how you seen that, like, as you link it back to them, like, as you were saying earlier on in the podcast about, like, having them little success, like, wins, the quick wins, and just making yourself feel positive about yourself mentally. So I think that type of advice, it will help a lot of people and, like, give them the motivation as well to do that.
Yeah, and you know what else? That brings a good point, because I do believe that when we look good, we feel good, you know, like. And so my daughter, she made fun of me. She's like, why are you taking a shower and fixing your hair and putting on makeup every day? We're not going anywhere. Because it makes me feel good. And if I sit around and I don't shower, or I don't put makeup on, or my hair, I'm wearing yoga pants every day and like not caring, eventually it starts to affect how I feel about myself and my mindset. And so I got in the routine of showering, fixing my hair, putting on makeup, putting on actual clothes. At least, you know, I would at least like 3 days a week, I'm going to at least like make sure my jeans still button, and like, because you just it gets you out of that rut of kind of being a slob. And that was really helpful for me, honestly. Just getting dressed, you know, every day, regardless of if I was going anywhere or not.
Excellent. And Brittany, you kind of talked about this man earlier on, the fantastic Tom Brady. We've obviously got the Super Bowl coming up just around the corner. Now, it's set to break all kinds of records. Do you think he should be now held in the kind of same bracket as Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Serena Williams, as like some of the all-time great kind of US athletes? Do you think he should be in that kind of bracket now, do you reckon?
I don't think you can not put him in that bracket. I mean, I you know, look what he's done, and at his age, I'm 43. He and I are the same age, and I'm like, I have no idea how he's doing that. Like the discipline and even with his eating, like what he's putting in his body and what he's put his body through over such a long period of time, and for it still to be working for him in that way. I mean, I think that in and of itself is amazing. I think the fact that he left the Patriots at the time, I thought it was a dumb move, but I think the fact that he left that organization and went to a completely different organization with a different coach, different personnel, and he's gotten that team back to the Super Bowl as fast as he did, I don't think you can ignore that and ignore just his mental and physical sharpness. I think absolutely he's up there with the best of the best for sure.
And I think when you kind of mentioned that earlier, when you were talking about how younger people should look up to these athletes as not just athletes, but as role models, as talking about his family life, about what he's talking about. He's got a college degree, you know what I mean? All these kind of things. He's more than an athlete. And I think Absolutely. That really ties into what we've been talking about tonight.
And the other thing, you know, about him and about a lot of NFL players is, you know, he wasn't drafted in the first round. He was a late pick draft. He went to he didn't go to Alabama, you know, or Clemson. I mean, he went to a small college where he was not the guy. And look at him. And he through work ethic, he became the guy. And I think that is such an important lesson. That look, you don't have to be the greatest. You don't have to be born the greatest. You can become the greatest with your work ethic and your passion, and I think he's a great example of that, of somebody that has really worked to be exactly where he is.
Again, it's blown my mind when you put it into sort of the perspective of he is more than an athlete. In terms of my last question was sort of about the present and working towards the future. My next question is sort of looking back, and if you could offer any piece of advice to your younger self, like what would it be?
Oh Lord, a lot. I think my first piece of advice to my younger self would be, don't sweat the small stuff. I think some of this, it comes with wisdom and age, but I used to get so bent out of shape and just get all emotional and fired up over things that long-term were really not that important. And I think to stop, to offer my younger self the advice of to just stop and listen without the intent to respond. Because at my younger self, I listened, but to formulate my comeback, but I wasn't really listening to understand. And so I think, stop, listen. Is 10 years from now, is this going to matter? And just really taking into the perspective of situations and not getting emotional and stressed and angry about things that really didn't matter, would be my biggest piece of advice. My second piece of advice, I, for a very long time, felt like self-care was selfish. And I just thought, I don't have the money, I don't have the time, and that's great, that's selfish, who does that? That is the lie that I was telling myself. And so I think to tell my younger self, like, self-care is not selfish. It is okay to do things for yourself that make you feel good. And if getting my nails done, makes me feel good, then get your nails done. Like, who cares? And I would tell myself, my younger self, to take care of myself, to do yoga and get my hair done and do those things for myself. Because I think I had an attitude for a long time that anything I did for myself was selfish. I was supposed to be giving to others. And yes, that is important, but you can't give to others if your tank is empty. So I I learned that I have to give to myself in order to be my best there and to then give to others. Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's sound, yeah. And we've talked about, you know, how you've kept yourself mentally busy, physically, you know, you're on the go, and you've got a book coming out in September.
Yes, I'm so excited. Yeah. Like, this may be the most exciting thing for me in a while. So I wrote the book myself. A lot of people say they write a book and somebody else actually wrote it. And no, I wrote every word by myself, or I had editors helping me, obviously, but it's my book. I wrote it. And I'm really proud of it. I mean, I'm really proud of all the work that's gone into it. The vulnerability, I share some stories in there about my personal life that haven't been shared. And I think it's important for people to realize that I'm not perfect. And, you know, I'm not some figure that can't be obtained or aspired to. I mean, I'm just a normal girl from Mississippi that's had, you know, all kind of struggles too. And so I share a lot of that in the book. It's a motivational book. It's a self-help book about maximizing second chances. So I want, you know, the whole purpose in this is to get the message out all over to everyone, whether they are a football fan or have Netflix or not, that look, we have the opportunity every single day for a second chance. I mean, you know, I kind of don't like the notion anymore of last chance you, because I don't believe that. I don't believe anybody in life is on their last chance. No, you're on your next chance. And what you do with that next chance is super important. And so that's really what the book is about, is that you if you're awake, you know, if you're breathing, you can change things. Like, you can maximize this opportunity that's in front of you right now, whatever it is. And so I'm just excited for people to read it. I hope that it just speaks to people, and that, you know, people are moved by it and love it. And I love it. So if 5 people buy it or 5 million people buy it, you know, I'm proud of it and I love it. And I'm just super excited. It comes out September of 2021. Hopefully by then I will be able to go on a book tour and hand it to people personally, which would be fantastic.
Would you consider maybe Doncaster as one of your book tour locations?
Absolutely. No, I've never been to London. Like, I have so many places on my list of places I want to go, and then COVID happened and I couldn't go to any of them. And so I have a long list of yes, absolutely.
You'd love Yorkshire. Absolutely.
So talking about obviously stuff going off, and you've got loads of kind of projects and kind of thing, but something that really kind of caught my attention, and I'm sure it will do a lot of people, is you've got a TV series coming out about your life. And not only that, you've got Courtney Cox playing you. Like, how did that even come out? How did that come around?
That's crazy. So Michael Strahan is executive producer. Courtney is an executive producer, and then I'm an executive producer. But Courtney's going to play me in this series. It's a scripted series about kind of my life. It'll start with my first day at East Mississippi Community College, like the day I walk in the door, and kind of move you through my experiences there and in my personal life. A lot of my personal life, the struggles. I went through a divorce while I was at East Mississippi. A lot of people don't know that kind of story. So there will kind of be some personal life ties in there. And Courtney's amazing. She's just an amazing human being. I've gotten to know her through all of this, and I consider her a friend. And honestly, if I could pick somebody to play me, it's her. I mean, you know, she's an amazing person. I feel like we think kind of in the same lane. She's funny. Now, she's a lot funnier than I am. She's hilarious. So she's going to bring kind of her kind of humor, and she's amazing. Strahan's amazing. It's an amazing group of people. If COVID will ever end, we will actually get to shoot the darn show. But right now, the whole project's on hold because of COVID. And which is a bummer, but I'm
What's
just excited for the day.
What's it like working with Michael Strahan? Like,
I really love him.
He was obviously a very good player.
Yes.
In the NFL, and like to make a switch into something that's not really involved with sport. That's quite fascinating.
You know, and what a great example of being more than an athlete. I mean, this man has like 5 different. He has a clothing line that he established. He's a Good Morning America journalist, which is amazing. He has an entire entertainment company that he's, running. I mean, he's still doing the sports analysis stuff. I mean, more than an athlete. He's got charities and foundations. He's a father. He's an incredible human being. I really respect the heck out of Michael Strahan. I mean, he is the real deal for sure. Yeah. The fact that he even knows who I am, like, I mean, just like, how do you even, like, really, you watch this show and you know Brittany Wagner? He's like, Brittany, everybody knows Brittany Wagner. I'm like, no, not people like you. But, the fact that, we text is amazing. He's just an amazing person. He really is. And so is Courtney.
I think even you don't have to be a sports fan to really enjoy it. I think, even if you're working in education or you're working in counselling, I think a lot of people bought into what you were doing and, the great work that you were doing.
Yeah, it's really been crazy, the amount of people that have reached out and the organizations that have hired me to speak. I don't speak just at colleges and schools and universities. I mean, I get hired by corporations and it's just amazing. And the reason is because people connect to the relationship piece and the mentoring piece. And it's just been an amazing ride. You can't dream this up. No way. That's why, because I'm like, look, you better be ready to adapt your dreams, because there's a lot of dreams in life that you can't create. I could have never dreamed this up. So good thing I was open, because wow, what a ride.
Brilliant. And long may it continue. Yeah, long may it continue. And I think that's we're gonna kind of wrap it up there. So I think the main phrase that I feel like we've come out with, it's almost like a new "Have you got a pencil?" Is more than an athlete. That is like,
yes!
That is like the term I think that we've kind of developed from here. That,
that's nice.
Yeah. And one thing from all of us is thank you very much, Brittany, for doing this.
Thank you.
We really do appreciate it. I hope people watch this, and I hope people take point, whether they be in college, whether they be fans of the show, anywhere. Make sure that if you are struggling mentally, people are there for you to speak to. Try to keep you at that positive mindset, and that's it really. Thank you very much, Brittany, and that's the lot. So
thank you, Brittany.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brittany.